Why make an action movie and not a social drama, or, you know, with conversations over cups of tea?
I guess it's because we're masochists, probably. Actually, but the reality is that ever since I was about 11 years old, I've loved action films. It comes from a triple bill of watching Commando, Revenge of the Ninja, and American Ninja on one weekend. That changed everything. Previous to that, I thought I was going to be a Marvel comic book artist.
Right.
And so from that point on, I realised there were films around which kind of had that kind of comic book feel. I probably didn't quite cotton on when I was a kid, but that's obviously what happened. So when I got to college, skip 6 years, when I got to college and took a media production A-level, I met my then-to-be producer, Phil Hobden, and we started getting the cameras out, and basically we just filmed fights continuously, just beating each other up in front of the camera, and it progressed from there.
Right. Okay, so how much did it cost? How did you shoot it? You know, what format did you use? Sure. I know we've talked about how much it cost, but yeah. I think it's important to kind of revisit that, because this really was made with the resources and amount of money that anybody can find if they really had to. Yeah,
I mean, just to be clear, we'd made this 10 Dead Men was our second feature. Left 4 Dead was the first one we did, which was essentially just really seeing if we could make a feature film. There'd been a few attempts beforehand which had become aborted, but we really stuck with it and carried through. Took it to Cannes and it sold. And in the end, what we basically did was make 10 Dead Men out of the profits of Left 4 Dead, give or take, and a bit more out of pocket and so forth.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, the £10,000 for cash is really what we made it for. And if we'd have paid everybody what we would like to have paid them, obviously it would have cost a lot more.
Right. So how on earth did you get everybody involved if you only had 10 grand?
Yeah. I think partly Left 4 Dead did very well, so the martial arts community knew who we were, which kind of bleeds also into the action community, stunts and so forth. And obviously we were always networking anyway, so that was one thing. In terms of convincing people, the budget never really came up, weirdly. I think because we had some really good people involved. I mean, Phil, the producer's an excellent blagger, really pushed himself out there and got a lot of things we would normally get. We had Brendan Carr, the lead. He's got a certain following himself, and he was able to attract people. He also helped attract people like Pooja Shah, who we'd known for a long time from EastEnders. She was great. In turn, they also attracted Lee Latchford Evans, and anyone who would have expected to see someone from Steps in an action film.
Right.
I don't know how would have...
So you've got a very eclectic bunch of people in here. You've even got a cage fighter.
Well, this is it. The other thing I was going to lead on to is that obviously cage fighting is a rising phenomenon. It's still going. And what happened with that was that Phil, our producer, was originally going to contact one of the people we'd worked with in Left 4 Dead, who was a cage fighter. It turned out he wasn't available due to reasons beyond our control. Phil called up Dave O'Donnell at Cage Rage and Andy Gear and essentially said, please help. Not only did Dave provide himself as a fighter, he provided Tommy Gunn, who was amazing and huge charisma and really went for it. And that could have been a nightmare, in all honesty. If you don't connect personality-wise, it can be very difficult, but he was wonderful and gave it 100%. Not only did Dave do that and bring the people to it, he provided a location that we couldn't have imagined we were going to get. Because we arranged it a couple of weeks before, and he said, yeah, there's going to be a venue, it'll be a cage fight, we'll go in, we'll do the fight. And we were like, brilliant, this will be great. This was our first shoot, proper shoot for 10 Dead Men. And it was the first time I was working with Jude, who was a friend, but we'd never really worked professionally together. So it was a lot of, this was going to be quite a test.
Right.
And we got to the week before the shoot, and I said to Dave, well, where are we filming? He said, no, it'll be fine, it's a good venue. Like, okay. And then he said, we're going to be at Wembley. And we were like, what? Wembley, Cage Rage 18. And so suddenly we're not just doing a cage fight with 2 professional cage fighters, which, you know, great. We're doing it in Wembley Arena and shot some of this footage in front of, you know, like thousands of people cheering and screaming. I mean, we couldn't possibly have imagined we were going to get that.
Right.
So that, if you like, that kind of mentality, the guerrilla style of filmmaking, if you like, grabbing for everything, permeated the film essentially from that point on.
So how big was your crew?
About 7 of us.
Right.
I mean, actually, I'm being a little bit vague there. In all honesty, there was a core crew. There was myself, Phil the producer. There was Stefan Ashdown, a very long-suffering makeup and special effects guy. He did all of the makeup and special effects. As Jude mentioned earlier, obviously, he'd run in and put some blood on. We'd all chip in and help. But Stefan as a one-man crew, did all of the prosthetics you see in the film, all the blood, everything in general. He made it all as one person, which is pretty awesome. There was Darren Berry, my DOP. A couple of other camera operators were brilliant and came along at certain points when we needed them. Jude, of course, as stunt coordinator. And as he mentioned, the way we work together is probably not very typical of an English film. I mean, we really did work in, if you like, that Hong Kong style, which is something I've been very passionate about for a long time.
Right.
So we were very reliant on that. And if I'm forgetting anyone, I'm very sorry.
Right.
We didn't really have a sound recordist per se. We just did it ourselves.
Right.
And we had to do a lot of ADR as a result. So, in actual fact, I'd love to have had a key sound person.
Would you do that differently next time?
Yes. If I'm honest, if we could have had a really good sound recordist, that would have been immensely helpful, because, of course, recording so much ADR can be time-consuming. At the same time, I have to say that the first time I really felt like a real director was actually in the ADR process, because on set we were rushing around and trying to get everything done at the same time, and I do feel personally that I didn't have enough time to work with the actors.
How long did you shoot for?
Okay, so yeah, the breakdown on that is, it was in total, production, shooting and editing, everything, is around 18 months, but bearing in mind we're talking about weekends, evenings, that kind of thing. We literally shot a key scene while we were doing ADR, edited it and put it into the film. It's a scene where Jason Mazza, who is a real find, I have to say, as an actor, meets up with Silvio Simac, who plays like one of our lead villains at the end, very simply meeting each other at a train station. And we really wanted to have a scene which tied them together, because we just couldn't have scheduled it any other way. So we waited till the day of ADR, got them to do that. Luckily, the scene itself had no dialogue, and we just shot it, edited it, put it in.
Right.
So it was all the way through.
So something that I alluded to earlier when with Jude, that, you know, I'd made this film, The Runner, in the early 90s.
Runner 2.
It's coming.
Runner 2, run, runner, run.
Run, runner, run. No.
We're so doing that.
I remember distinctly the stunt coordinator saying, you know, we've no money, you know, we can't do it the normal way. And rather than then go, oh dear, he actually smiled and went, oh, and rubbed his hands together and went, that sounds great. Did you have a similar experience?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly it. I mean, one of the things that I think some stunt performers, I think I might be generalising a bit, but I think I'm fairly right about this. One of the things that a lot of stunt people don't get to do on bigger productions is have perhaps as much creative input and do stunts that they really want to be able to do. Because we didn't have insurance, which we should have had insurance, but because we didn't have it, and because essentially we had a very good rapport with the performers, and obviously they trusted Jude, they came along, you know, all these action people basically came along because of Jude in the end, which was great. They really got to have input into doing things and performing stunts, obviously for their own purposes as well, but the film benefits hugely from it. I mean, one day we were shooting the final shootout, which was great, and lots of pyrotechnics going off. And one stunt chap, Roy Taylor, came up to me with Jude. They'd obviously been having a chat, and Roy was like, I want to do a high fall from the film, which is essentially obviously just being thrown out the window. But there's skill to that. There's a lot of danger to that. There was no real safety. There was a mattress at the bottom, and he was going to fall through some branches, and that was it. And it may be the first time I've spontaneously hugged a man.
Yeah.
Roy said, I want to do a high fall for you. I was like, oh, Roy.
Yeah.
And it was brilliant. And again, something like that looks very simple can add so much. It's, I guess, what you'd call a trailer moment. And indeed, it's in the trailer. So they all got to have that input. They all obviously channeled it through Jude. Jude coordinated it, and we made sure it fit within the film. But they really, if you like, warmed to the spirit of getting on with it and getting things done, and really giving an extra layer of, I'm trying to think of the right word, an extra layer of detail and production value that we really wouldn't have had otherwise.